Hello, welcome to another tonalist landscape oil painting demonstration. This is your painter in residence, M. Francis McCarthy, and this painting I'm bringing you today is called By the River. Sure, I've used that title before, but it's not completely sepia based, but it is one of these sort of very limited palette type of paintings, which we've done a bit of in this channel in the last year. This one's a little more extensive. A lot of those I was, just riffing off of maybe one sepia color or two, and black and white, of course. This one's got some yellow ochre, burn umber, raw umber, black, white. Actually, that's a palette I like a lot. I can do a heck of a lot with that, and you could always throw things into a different cast if you want as well. So what we're doing right now, we're working on a bit of hardboard, and it's been primed with 2 coats of transparent gesso. Those of you with the channel for a while will say, well, we know that, but a lot of new people don't. So I'm trying to make a point to always communicate that. So it looks like it's raw, unprepped hardboard, but it's actually been prepped with transparent gesso. And the reason I do that is because I find that brownish reddish color very pleasant color to work on indeed. The only exception to that is like if I want to do a real like monochromatic, like black and white grayscale type painting, then I'll prime the board with a bit of acrylic gray paint or just black and white gesso mixed together if I'm going to do quite a lot of that. In fact, I just did that yesterday, and that painting's looking cool. The other thing you can do is you can tint. So, after the board's primed, you can rub thin colors like you would use for glazing, like Indian yellow or almost any color. You can just rub on the board and give it a little tint towards the yellow range, a yellow brown or a reddish brown. And that's fun to do. I don't do that that often, though, because I find the hardboard color just to be really optimal for what I like to do and the way I like to work for color paintings and the sepia tone. So let's talk a bit about what we're doing right now is what I call my drawing process. So I put down a few strokes with the brush, and then I like to get my paper towel out, and if I have big masses like this, and do the big masses with a bit of crumpled paper towel. And that's an idea I got from they had a show when I was a kid in the 80s called That's Incredible, and they had the world's fastest painter. He came up on the stage, he painted the whole audience, he just did swap, swap, swap with some paper towels, and his whole technique was paper towel based. And now I wouldn't really get into that too much with the full color paintings, but for the drawing stage it works great. I absolutely recommend you try that. And when I do that, by the way, I crimp up a clean bit of paper towel without a pattern on it. That's important. And dip it in my painting oil, which in this case is a quick dry oil from Archival Oils brand. It's called Odorless Lean. And then into my pigment that's on my metal palette, and then in varying degrees. If I want it a little lighter, then it's more oil and less pigment. If I want it very dark, like there's no black in this, you can get quite dark with the burnt umber, which is the color that I've done all that with. And so that after I have that drawing done, then I'm getting into the color, which is what you can see we're doing now. Now, this video is sped up, but you can see this whole process with the colors I'm mixing and using. Actually looks like I'm using raw sienna as well as yellow ochre. Probably to count, raw sienna's got a little bit of that red in it. And yellow ochre's got a bit of greenish feeling, so that kind of is canceling that out, giving me an ochre that's more neutral, Anyway, getting to what I was saying, the live version of this you can access by, pardon me, you look in the description area there, you'll see a link for the members area. Now that's $6 a month, half of which goes to the Google Corporation, or whatever they call themselves, ABC, which is all fine and good. This is their land that I'm sharecropping on. So but that's a great way to help the channel. And what you'll get there is, like, you get a little snippet at the beginning of this video where you actually see the reference I'm working with, and a lot more insight and information as the real-time painting session ensues. And this painting session was quite quick. It was around an hour and 20 minutes or so. So I noticed a lot of times in the members area that those videos are the most popular, and no doubt because you know you can get a lot from watching the 3 hour ones. There's a few in there that are 7 hours long, which I highly recommend. What I recommend in that case is just keep it open in a tab and revisit it as you have time. But something like an hour long, it's basically one of the reasons I did this whole sepia painting was I just wanted. I've had this reference prepped for a long time. It's based on a scene I came across in my travels, and I thought the reference looked really cool, really neat. And I took this approach with it because, well, actually, I had it already dialed in as a sepia. So, but I took this approach because I didn't have a lot of time that day, but I wanted to do a painting, and that's awesome. You could you could actually tint this with glazes and do a lot of other things. I mentioned that in some of my videos in the past. You know, if you could glaze this up with some Indian yellow and some perylene red and permanent orange, colors like that, and turn it into a sunset. Although obviously I won't be doing that because I set out to do an ochre sepia thing, and that's what I did. Yeah. Anyway, so this painting, you could see very much the case is like you're looking at the underdrawing with just the lightest colors, and it almost stands up on its own, which is something I discussed in the live video session. I could have just walked away, but where I'm going to go is I'm going to add a little more darks in the darkest area of actual black, and then I'm going to you just bring in some other colors into this underpainting slash drawing, which is really holding up. Most of the paintings hinging off of that, and I was quite happy with it. And that was done. One of the reasons it was done so quickly is because of that paper towel. Imagine, you know, hoeing your row through there with a little tiny brush. Could just be a lot of work, and you wouldn't have a result that's as fresh. Yeah, so what you see me doing now is coming there with black, and I'm pretty sure it was Mars black this day. And I like the Mars black because it gives me an opaque black. And there's a lot of times you might go, well, so what, you know, but there are times if your pigments are all veering towards the transparent range, as burnt umber does, it's good to have an opaque black, and I discovered that when I did the sepia series earlier this year, in some cases, and the pigment series actually, which I also did earlier this year. The pigment series was a series. Dig around in the channel for that. I really should make a playlist of it. I'm going to make a note to do that. I'll do that. I can promise I'll do that. What was great about the pigment series and the sepia series, but the pigment series was you're really exploring the full depths of each color on my palette with just black and white, and creating paintings that way. And we had a few paintings that looked like a little radioactive, like the permanent green painting, which I actually really like, you know, but you know, the permanent green, it looks like it's Chernobyl or something. Anyway, so that's where I really picked up on the value of the Mars Black, because some of these pigments would just be so transparent I couldn't get things to move. And having that little bit of opacity from the white, the titanium coming in, the problem with the opacity you're bringing to bear from the titanium is it will chalk most colors up. In my regular painting process, where I'm doing full color paintings, I would a lot of times I'll bring in something like yellow ochre or this raw sienna to get me some opacity where I need it without having to go to a white. And they will moderately chalk up the color, but nothing chalks up color like white. That's one of the reasons where usually most of the white in my paintings is being used in sky areas, or in the case of this painting, in the sky and the river, which is the same basic color. Yeah, so just thinking about other tips I can lay on you. Well, the other thing I want to talk about was the proportion of this is quite a bit skinnier. A lot of times I would go after a scene like this as an 8x10. I feel like that 8x10 proportion is really very nice for vertical scenes. And it can be nice for horizontal scenes too, especially if you're kind of riffing off the squareness of it, you know. It's not often I do my verticals this long and skinny, but I've done a couple lately, and it's worked out really well. Here, the main subject as I saw it was just this group of vertical trees, and we're looking at a little scene behind. So it's almost a decorative sort of approach to the landscape. And there was a painting I did a study after of John Francis Murphy way, way back in the early days. Not the very earliest days of the channel, but I think it was probably the first Past Masters series where it was a sepia tone, one single tree, and then, you know, the colors around it, and very decorative. And that was sort of the inspiration for my approach to this, although he had a little bit more like clay tones. His palette wasn't quite so limited. Here I've limited my palette to just the burnt umber, the raw sienna, the yellow ochre, titanium white, and Mars black. Now it's possible I could have used lead white. Sometimes I usually, if I'm doing a full color painting, I usually go for straight up titanium white. But there are times I do these little like mono kind of paintings where I will go with the lead white just because I love lead white and it's fun, you know. But what are the differences between, say, titanium white and lead white? Well, actually, first of all, a lot of paints that are labeled as titanium white are actually including a bit of zinc white. So, and watch out for that. Zinc white can be very brittle, especially on canvas. I don't like to use it. I have a tube that I've been playing with just for fun. I bought it, you know, it was a really cheap tube of white. It marked as titanium. This stuff's got zero opacity. I don't know what they put in it, but there's very little actual titanium white pigment, which gets us to real titanium white, which is super opaque. It is going to be one of the most opaque colors on your palette. And by opaque, for some of you, I've had students that didn't know what I meant by opaque, so I won't assume you know, but you know, it's not because I don't want to tell you stuff you already know, but opaque means it really covers over the other colors. So this is a real factor. One of the things that contributes to the chalkiness that titanium white brings to bear. Then you get into lead white, which lead white is, you know, just pure lead. And when it's treated with vinegar and I think it's manure in the old days or whatever, it flakes off. That's why it's called flake white. And that pigment is ground up. And, you know, all this stuff went around about how poison it is. And it's poisonous, but really that was mostly bearing on house paint and chips of house paint that little kids were eating. If you're an artist, you don't need to worry about the toxicity of lead white unless you're squeezing the tube, unless you're squeezing paint directly into your mouth or something like that, which I don't recommend. Don't do that. But it's no more poisonous than, say, cadmium. So if you're using the cadmiums, don't be scared of the lead. Also, a lot of people believed for a long time that the lead white and the cadmiums would oxidize, and so your yellows would turn brackish and greeny black. There was somebody on the channel that told me quite a while back that that wasn't true because I was promulgating that. It isn't true because of the way the pigments are suspended in the medium, which in most cases is some sort of oil if you're oil painting. And you notice you don't see, I don't think you see a lot of cadmiums in the acrylic realm. I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't paint with acrylic. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Until I come back with another video, I really want you to do me a favor and just relax and do some painting. And turn off this video and go do a little quick painting like this, you know? Have fun. Take an hour, make a painting, you know? And then do the same thing again tomorrow and the next day. And until I come back with another video, do me a favor, do me a solid. Take good care of yourself, your family, all your loved ones. Try to be patient when people have different opinions, and God bless you. Stay out of trouble.